everyone. I hope you're having a good morning, evening, afternoon. This is one of our webinars where we will be covering what will the new normal look like. I know it's a question that many of you have. We have it, but the good thing is that we have some speakers with us who might have very good insights into what the new norm might look like. A few things to start with, please, and that is if we may keep our mics muted in order to make sure that the recording doesn't have any background noise or any disruptions. Also, like we always do, since we have 3 speakers today, if you may put any questions that you have during their presentations in the chat box, and I will be moderating all the questions at the end. And if you want one of the speakers specifically to answer your question, please just write the name who you're addressing this question to. Thank you for being with us and welcome to our session. Again, it's about what will the new normal look like. It's been a question that everyone has on their mind. We've had many seminars so far, and actually most of them evolve about how to adapt, how to be ready, and this one kind of just hits the nail. This is the most direct session that we're having in order to support you in finding out what could be the new norm and how to prepare yourself for it, because too many things may be not the right actions or may not be needed at this point. Maybe things will be replaced with other actions for you to support your clients. Things are different, but again, we're here, our speakers are here in order to support us prepare. We have 3 speakers, as I mentioned before: Michael McLane from ICMCI Australia, Tamara Abdel-Jaber from the CMC Global Institute, and Mr. Joe Fukuyama from the Institute in Japan. All of them are CMCs, and I will introduce each speaker as we go. The first speaker will be Michael. Michael is, as I said, a member of ICMCI Australia. He's a fellow member, and he established his company, McLane Management Consultants, in 1988. He has a track record in strengthening organization resilience. He's a good problem solver. He knows all about risk management, and it's about prevention and mitigation as well. But I can name him the king of ISO, since he has over 250 ISO management systems, implementations, and certifications. I know I did not do you justice, Michael, but this is what I could fit in the time allocated for this. It's a long CV, you should see it, guys. Michael, you're with us. If you may unmute, please, and open your camera, because the floor is yours now. Michael?
Yeah, hello, how are you?
Hello. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Yes, it's 5 p.m. here in Australia, and Japan is about what, 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock?
It's 4 o'clock, correct. Yeah, yeah. And we're at 10 o'clock, so different time zones and different attendees from the different IMCs all over the world.
Okay, there you go. So are you going to share the...
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you go. You can
just
do that.
Tell me next when you need to go to the next, okay?
Oh, this is very internally customer focused. So what I thought I'd do is just make sure that we cover the topics as best as I can in the short period that I have. And this question about what is the new normal, and I think this is actually part of the problem, is that whatever was before will not be normal again. If I take the point of September or 9/11, as we all know, and we're all affected eventually, after 9/11, the new normal was actually not the same as what it was before 9/11. So trying to get back to some form of stability, like for those people who know statistics, or a patient comes into a hospital, the first thing that they do with the patient is to stabilize the patient. So to stabilize the patient is that so the physician or doctors or nurses can know what that person's system is, what's their reading, so that they can actually say the treatment or the triage So that's what I'll do today, just very briefly, to understand what is that new normal and how will it, and obviously affect our consulting life. I have to admit, I've been home a bit more often than normal. I'm normally overseas, and my wife is always complaining that I'm always away, and I don't care. So her son said to her a few weeks ago, "So how are you getting, you know, like used to Michael being at home, Mum?" And she said, "Why is that?" "Well, you got to be careful what you wish for." So I've now been home for about 8 weeks, and only today and last week I went out to see a client. So it has changed my consulting life, and I'll talk about that. And what's really interesting is what's in and what is out. And I suppose for some people, some things that you kind of put off are now back in, and other things that you thought, well, I'll do more of this, has now changed. If I may, like I've never done so many Zoom meetings, GoTo meetings, Skype meetings, and having the ability to do something remotely has been quite unusual, especially if you have a personality like mine, whereby I like to engage with people, which is what most consultants do. So how do you change your style in this changing context? And of course, fitness to lead the trend. That's a bit tougher because there in Australia, we've had the research that said that which I can share with you, Rima, I'll share with everybody after the presentation. They found that one of the sectors which was going to be affected very greatly was actually the professional services or management consulting. And I have to admit that I had to change my own business model, and I had to change some of my relationships. Sometimes the relationships I had to reconnect and strengthen, and it has been interesting to do that. And the last part is how to build resilience and adaptability, to be agile, as they say. Mind you, half the time when you see somebody or an organization is saying they're doing agile, I'm not so sure that they actually are. So that's what I was just going to cover, Rima, and I'll be very brief, if you can change. So will we get back to the so-called normal way of life? And I was at a meeting today for the Department of Defense here in Australia, and they found that for 60% of the workers, this is hot off the press, 60% of the workers, so to speak, managers and staff, they've actually become more productive. And that was a bit of an eye-opener. I have a government department, and they do investigative reports on a certain government departments on other managers, let's say school principals and teachers and that type of industry. It's not, but it's like that. And they found, the investigators, they would maybe do 600 reports per month. Well, now, because of this working from home and they don't have to travel as much, they're getting a lot of their evidence from local, let's say, data collectors. They're being able to analyze the data, being able to make the reports, and their productivity's gone up to 900 reports in a month. So since COVID, it's been a bit of a surprise. So the executive are starting to work out maybe there's another way of working. And the fact is, how do you measure somebody's work? How do you say that you're contributing? And I think what most of us as management consultants, especially those who may have a focus on human relations, those HR departments may find it difficult to be kind of relevant because the people that they used to go and help may not need it. I've heard of other managers now engaging with their staff more without the HR department coming along to help them engage with their staff, which it begs the question, why would you have a HR manager doing what the manager should be doing with their staff anyway? So that's been rather interesting. So what's going to be normal? And the other point was, this is a coronavirus. This is a novel coronavirus. So it's a new virus. One of my clients is actually working on the genome sequencing for the medical mice so that they can test for this vaccine. And it's an Australian company. They're in Australia. They went to the United States and now they're in the Cayman Islands. So they're trying to come up with it because they said this virus is actually different. And when it comes out in regards to the vaccine, it will automatically build upon what we would have done in social distancing. And we are going to change the way that we all interact anyway. So I don't think we're going to go back to a normal life. Next one, please. When Rima put up the agenda, and I said just earlier on about resilience, for some of you, you may not know this, but this collaboration and trying to have resilience, it's important to understand how we have to collaborate. There is a business resilience standard, which I'll talk about, but I think for us consultants, we have to have guidance of how to do better business relationships. I've found, for example, that some of my older consulting friends, some are CMCs, not many, that they've reconnected because they're still having to put together bid teams to quote on or do proposals for assignments. And what's been happening is a lot of the consultants and CMCs have been searching out for people who can complement their teams, which they normally work with. And now they've got new team members. So it's been interesting over the last few weeks to see the requests come from people that I probably would never have thought of working with. But because of your speciality, that speciality has now become an important piece of the jigsaw to help that consultant that you know of and may not have had a big relationship with. Now you're working as a bit of a synergy, a better team, but the team is remote. If it's any consolation, I've been doing an asset management review for a state of Australia, which has a lot of dams, waters and weirs and pipelines and sewerage. Now, I'm not an ISO 55,000 asset management standard expert, but I do know because of my CMC training and what I've been doing as a consultant, as Rima says, for a long time. That's why I've got no hair. Part of that is I bring other things to the team that the asset management specialists don't have. Regards getting the data, interpreting the data, asking the questions when people are on the Zoom meeting, understanding the nuances and saying, oh, so you've been doing SAP? Yes, we have SAP. Did you do a change management piece? Or did you do business process re-engineering? And the clients have come back, oh, it's funny you should say that. I thought you were just interviewing us about the asset management standard and as whether we should go for the asset management certification. I said, oh yeah, but I've heard your people say something about SAP. So it's been interesting to bring in things from our experience into an assignment which you did not think that your skills may have been appropriate. And that's what I was talking about in regards to synergies. So I'd strongly advise people to have a look at this standard in regards collaboration. The United Kingdom Ministry of Defence wants all suppliers to Ministry of Defence in the United Kingdom to have not only quality certification and other certifications, but they would like them to have this business relationship collaboration certification. And as you can see by the circle around the outside, it's some of the things that we would, as CMCs, naturally do. And even within the ISO 20700, it includes many aspects of relationship management. So it's a very good standard to download, and look forward to hearing what people think about it when they do. Next slide, please, Rima. So what's in and what's out of this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic? I suppose what's in is trying to make sure the welfare of our staff is okay. We've got to make sure that they got the right environment and it's safe, the social distancing. Where I was today with a client, when I walked in, the boardroom was set out differently and everybody was around the table having this big Zoom meeting. But it was quite interesting how we all did the bump and we didn't shake hands. But the meeting went quite well. But it also meant that people kind of had to respect everybody's distance. And it was a very positive work environment, although spread out. So understanding our staff, getting close to what our clients, our own staff, but also our client staff, and understanding how they are. Obviously working with the suppliers. I gave a webinar a few weeks ago and one of the people called in from their business and they're in the restaurant and cafes and so forth. And he said, what should I do? Because my suppliers now can't supply me. I said, I don't know. And they were going to supply somebody else, and that's fine. But for some industries, the supply chain was deeply affected. And for those that do strategy, and we all know about PESTEL, SWOT analysis, Michael Porter's 6 competing forces. And for some of you who may think, wait a minute, I thought Michael Porter had 5 competing forces. No, he updated it to 6. And the 6 is complements or complementers. So what we are now seeing with the COVID virus, that people are now doing Zoom meetings and other things in regard to Skype meetings. So the business model has now changed. So what we have to think about is, what is our strategy? How can we provide a so-called horizon? And I'll cover that in one of the slides later. But for us who did scenario planning, I did scenario planning with Shell, oil and gas and coal in Australia, and also over in Europe, and BOC gases, Linde gas. So scenarios is one of those things that we got taught when we were at university about, what if this happens? What if this happens? What do we do? And if I may take the example of Oksana, she's from Japan, I take it. I do work in the automotive industry. And who would have known that back in 2000, when President Watanabe of Toyota said, oh, let's achieve a 50% cost reduction. And oh, sorry. So let's achieve a 50% cost reduction and increase our market share by 50%. So what did Toyota do? If you know that a car is actually made, not so much in regards to the car companies making stuff, they actually have over 80% of their product supplied and they just assemble. So if you had an edict of reducing your cost by 50%, the impact, the scenario, which I have there is, where does that cost reduction come from? It comes from the suppliers. If you wanted to increase market share, what you do? Reduce the price perhaps. And in 7 years' time after Toyota did this in 2000, the scenario that they did and the actions they took, they had the biggest vehicle recall until Volkswagen had theirs. So on the left-hand side is all the things that I've seen has been in, and what's been out is changes in remuneration. We've seen changes here in Australia about the remuneration packages and the salary packages for a lot of people. What's been out is trying to be a team player, and it's been very difficult. A lot of the people had a team-based culture, and that's been very difficult to now do. How do you have the KPIs? How do you measure people's performance? How do I say that you have good teamwork? It's a little bit difficult. And obviously what's out is face-to-face. So now we have to find a new way of working. And that face-to-face was something that us consultants had built upon. That personality that we all have. Some are introverts, some are extroverts. Some have Herman brain dominance assessments, and they know that there are certain styles. So we know all these things about being face-to-face. But for some of us that are like that, that's very difficult. For those that are analytical and do business analysis, consultancy, well, it may be okay. But for a lot of us, we've been finding that face-to-face is one of the things that we haven't had. Next one. So just to summarize a few things, obviously there's going to be a lot of stakeholders and interested parties that would be affected by this COVID period, including the consultancy. One of the things that we've been finding is whatever happens is that trying to satisfy the major stakeholder of a company being a customer, that you get it right the first time in every step of the process. For the internal factors that I mentioned before, to conduct the SWOT analysis, but also when you do the weaknesses and the threats as consultants, not to just to do a SWOT analysis, it's not done unless you do the actions to address the weaknesses and the threats. And to do the actions, you have to vote on them. You have to have data. And so the data mining, data integrity is important to make the rankings of the actions you would do. External factors, the PESTEL, what is changing? I think the most current one right now, Rima, is obviously what's happening in America. But here in Australia, we've reacted to what's happening in America, as has Paris, as has London, as has Greece. Everybody sees what happens now in real terms. So the PESTEL analysis needs to be done, and once again, actions. Next slide. And of course, within all management system standards, if I may, they all have what they call risk and opportunities. And there is, as I've mentioned there, a standard which you may, or guidelines actually, that you may want to access, being the organisation resilience. It was based on what British Standards Institute commissioned, Cranfield University to do a report on organisation resilience, and everybody talks about it. You know, the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. So what are the risks? If you do, some things are a risk, but it's an opportunity. Oh, there's an opportunity now to change the way we work, but is it a risk? So things have what they call a yin and a yang. And the last one is a planning horizon. And I'll show you a graphic on the next slide, but not yet. So normally what we would do, courtesy of McKinsey's and their Blue Oceans, their 3 horizons, but also Kim and Minogue, I can't say her last name, but their Blue Ocean strategy, whereby you go from a red ocean where the competitors are, and you want to go to a blue ocean. And we in Australia, when we won the America's Cup against the Americans, the person at the very front of the yacht could see that there was a wind change. And the captain said, "What should we do now?" And he said, "Go port." So he went to port. Did he say why? No, he trusted him because he knew that that's where the blue ocean is. So it's a very good little planning tool. But instead of doing, 1, 2, 3 years, we now can use this planning horizon to be 3, 6, and 12 months, which is the next slide and my final slide. So I put this together to show you that some organizations may want to, including the consultancies, work out what they're going to do in June now, what we're going to do in September, and of course, giving a vision of where we wanted to be in 2021. So for all of us that have a consultancy, you may have your values or your beliefs or operating principles. You can list them down there on the right-hand side. And at the top, you can put the vision of where you want to be, but you also have to state what your purpose is, your mission. So in regards to the implementation, you go from, as it says the top, from left to right. But from the scenario plan that we said before, you go from the right back to the left. So down the bottom, we want to survive the pandemic and the isolation period. We want to review our business model and offerings by September at least. And of course, we want to sustain our resilience and our capability for the future. So I hope that short presentation may be of value to people, and I will send you the report about what are the major sectors of our Australian industry that have been affected by this COVID virus. Thank you, Rima.
Thank you, Mike. You got me thinking on many of the points that you already covered. I like the fact that planning now is shorter, 3 months, because actually we have no clue what's going to happen next month, but it offered lots of insights. So thank you very much. I will await the report, and everyone knows who attends that they will also receive this presentation. So they will have your presentation as well as the report. We will start sending those tomorrow. And as I told everyone, this is recorded, so it's also going to be on our YouTube channel. I know that everyone kind of enjoyed this because there aren't many questions yet. So I think it was clear and precise. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you, my dear. And now we go to our next speaker, who's FUKUYAMA Yutaka. Mr. Yutaka is from the IMC in Japan. He's a CMC, of course, but also he's a member of the Central Japan Industries Association and the member of the board of directors there. And he's the general manager of Human Resources Division, external board member at the Association of Overseas Technical and Sustainable Partnership. The lovely thing and the thing that we all celebrated with Mr. Yutaka was the fact that he was awarded the gold medal at the Konstantinos International Award in 2017 back at our annual conference in Astana. So Joe, the mic is yours. Please unmute yourself, and the floor is yours, my dear.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and afternoon and evening, all management consultants participating. I am Joe Fukuyama, speaking from Nagoya, Japan. It's my great pleasure participating and introducing my views concerning concerning our current situation with reference to management consultancy being seriously at stakes in my standpoint from typically a Japanese context. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Hold on, Joe. We need to talk about your name first.
Okay.
I just want everyone to know that for us, Mr. Fukuyama is not Mr. Fukuyama Yutaka. He is actually our Happy Mountain Joe, and that is what his name means in English. Right, Joe?
Okay. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. First slide. Before I move on this main subject, let me review the general situations and our perspectives. When you look at the table, the left side of slide, you can easily find out the special position of Japan and Far East Asian countries. The number of our deaths by COVID-19 amounts to a very low frequency to compare to those of other countries. I don't understand why, but this is what has been shown apparent. Something must be possibly different from European or American conditions. COVID-19 influenced us in the suppressed situations in two important old normal contexts, which is essential to the human being's environments. One is gathering and talking. In the other word, face-to-face communications. The other is the freedom of movement. These two are so unique to human beings. From this point, COVID-19 is exactly the enemy to the human beings. Next slide, please. Okay, let me look back at the history of big problem. This table shows what have been happening, influencing us as to how we dealt with these difficulties. And the point most important being viewed from management field. However, what I'd like to tell you is where we easily return to the original state soon after these situations have been finished. So the big problems have been forgotten. The new normal will easily be forgotten, and old normal may soon come back after being forgotten. This is a proposition I am presenting from this table. Next slide, please. Next slide, yes. It's very difficult to predict the future trends, like the new normal being beyond my guess. What I'd like to discuss, however, is that people don't easily throw away the old normal. Old normal and the new normal and the simple dichotomy, the old and the new should go back and forth, then go forth and back. In short, they will be coexisting. We should strike a balance or make blending of the old normal and the new normal and, okay, sorry. We should strike a balance or make blending of the old normal and the new normal and should survive having conquered the COVID-19 pandemic world. The progress should be expected to be very slow enough. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Slide 4. Okay. Before telling you how we prepare as a management consultant, let me confirm my basic philosophy. We, as management consultants, are supposed to be and to behave like gorillas. Is it so clear to you? One of Japanese famous primatologists said, when two strong gorillas fight, weak gorillas meditate and look at each one's face. Gorillas have their dignity and tolerance. We management consultants are supposed to be in the very similar conditions like gorilla. Please remember, gorillas are different from monkeys. Gorillas are not monkeys. All right? This is my fundamental philosophy. And next slide, please. Okay. How can management consultant prepare? Probably this is what all participants would like to get to know. I have 3 hints, but these 3 hints are just suggestions, not at all the correct or exact answer. Before we go to first hint, do you agree with my definition of a management consultant? The definition is a management consultant is a person with management theory and principle who can develop problem solving without any power, money, or knowledge specific in the client. Do you agree with me? We don't understand. Sorry. At one time, Canadian management guru Henry Mintzberg told us that management needs science, art, craft. I think that management consultants tend to rely on just only science and in low degree on art. We don't understand the importance of craft and experience like CMC. Possibly the new normal requires us the well-balanced triangle of science, art, and craft. Craft means experience. I think experience is very important. This is first hint. And next slide, please. Okay, next slide. My second hint is, who is our real client? Our client and only the owners, top management, and those who give us money. Our real clients are all the people from top to the bottom in our client companies. In other words, we must focus on the operation system for the first line people and the control system for middle managers as well as the company-wide management system. Also, we should focus on every function all over the client company or organization, from manufacturing to sales, administration, etc. For these common goals, we consultants should cooperate and collaborate with colleague management consultant. And last hint, next slide. My third hint is about MC's management consultant competencies. I think management consultant competencies are based on listen, write, speak, think deeply, and act. The old-time management consultant who has his excellent skills in one of these 5 could make a great success. But recently, not old, now or new, the balance of these 5 is considered more important. For instance, If an MC, management consultant, is good at lectures in today's conditions, this management consultant can't successfully complete his mission in charging himself or herself in their lectures. And at this end of my part of participation, let me add two ideas. First one is protect your own castle by yourself. And second one is teaching how to fish instead of giving fishes. All of us are living in the same castle called globe or the earth. In the period of this great turbulence, I am recognizing the responsibilities and missions of our profession to contribute to the people and clients for whom we work all over the globe. Thank you very much for all the people involved in this webinar, and especially to Rima, who has kindly invited me to this very special session. Thank you very much. This is my show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. I mean, I like the fact that you put the stages and you ended up with the action. And it's all about how we perceive ourselves. Do we want to be the gorilla or do we want to be the monkey? I very much like that part. And I would like to heartily thank you for this contribution, Joe. And I know that we will get to the questions part, but first
Yes.
we need to have Tamara also present her what she prepared for us. Tamara Abdel-Jaber, a CPA and the CMC. She's the founder and chief executive officer at FUKUYAMA Consulting here in Jordan. She's an expert in strategy design and execution, business transformation and project management. And she currently serves as the elected chair of the CMC Global Institute. She serves on many boards for not-for-profits here in Jordan. Yesterday, while preparing my introduction to her, I actually messaged her saying, I don't know where to focus. If I want to introduce you, it might take like 10 minutes. So she's on many boards, working with many organizations, and mainly those aimed at empowering women, since she herself was recognized by Forbes Middle East as one of the 200 most powerful Arab women for 2014, plus other many recognitions. So Tamara, if you may put your video on, put your mic on, and please share with us your input.
Thank you for the introduction and the opportunity, Rima. Happy International Consultants Day, everyone. I think it's a special day for us to be celebrating given what's happening around us. So in terms of background, I've had my own management consulting firm since 2002. And as a management consulting firm, we've been working in the different Arab countries. As you probably all know, the Arab countries are very different or vary differently. So there are the ones that are considered mature markets for consultants, like the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and then there are others that are less or lower in terms of maturity. So it's been always interesting handling the different requirements of the different markets. At the same time, our clients have included large, medium, and small organizations in both the public and private sectors. So again, we've had the exposure to different industries and different types of organizations. Myself, I have been a CMC for many years and continue to serve the profession through IMC Jordan and CMC Global Institute. So again, that local and global exposure has been there. And we did, like everyone else, suffer from the global financial crisis, but it was multiple folds or at different stages because, for instance, it was felt first in the UAE, and then the effect started happening in other countries of the region. So as we were recovering with our business in the UAE, we started feeling the ripple effect in the other countries. Through the Arab Spring and the many economic and political turmoils in the different Arab countries at different times, we also saw things changing, and this taught us the importance of risk management, diversification, and having a proper and effective strategy for our business and for our clients. And the world has already been changing, or had already been changing dramatically before 2020. We were all expecting an economic slowdown. We've been seeing that in this part of the world at least. But what I've been seeing as challenges, but also as opportunities in 2020, they've taken us to a whole new level. And I believe that, so what I want to do today is share with you some of the things that I have been learning and discovering throughout this journey of 2020. Next slide, please, Rima. So many of us have been very good at adapting to working from home, managing our teams remotely. But even with our clients, I've been seeing two extremes. One is where clients or some teams within the client organizations have been working very efficiently. Working from home has increased their productivity. They're working longer hours. But I've also been seeing the other extreme where people are unable to work remotely, are unable to work from home for multiple reasons. And again, lockdowns and government regulations that have been restricting economic activities in certain sectors. At the same time, we've been seeing different performance for governments in the different countries in this part of the world. We've been seeing different impacts for the COVID-19 virus on the different countries. Jordan and Tunisia, for instance, have been performing really well. But countries in conflict like Yemen, Libya, Iraq, for instance, have had a bigger hits, and we're seeing the impact being discovered on a daily basis as we go. But before 2020, we've been seeing a few trends in this part of the world. One is the availability of knowledge. People have had access to knowledge for quite some time. You can Google anything, you can sign up for courses, and people have become familiar with a lot of topics. Clients became more aware, and everyone started getting the impression that by attending a course online on Coursera, they become expert in a specific field. So that has been a bit of a challenge for us as management consultants. Customer needs have been changing. The way they deliver their products and services have been changing. Technology disruptions have been going on for a while, but these past few years have been especially, we've been seeing especially big disruptions in businesses, and customers have been questioning their business models in general. And for us as management consultants, it meant that we need to further differentiate ourselves. We needed to be specialized and focused on certain topics. We needed to show that specialization to our customers. We needed to understand their industries better. So we couldn't, as before, talk to large, small, and medium firms, talk to different industries. We needed to have that focus. And we needed to show some thought leadership. We needed to show that we are experts in specific fields. We know better than the customer about their business in certain areas, so that the customer can appreciate the value that we're bringing to the business. For us, this has been the main value that we've been bringing to our customers in this part of the world. Next slide, please, Rima. So with COVID-19, it meant a new set of challenges. Definitely for our customers have been suffering, their businesses have been changing, there has been a lot of need to adapt and change for them, but also for us as management consultants, our teams, managing our teams, making sure that they're stable, that they're comfortable, that they're able to deliver. So finding that harmony and that synergy between the challenges and opportunities that our customers have been facing, but also how we can help them, how we can support them, has been extremely important. And I believe that this has raised a few topics that have been around for quite some time, but it meant that we need to focus more on them. Next slide, please, Rima. One thing that for us, we're facing here in Jordan, and we expect to continue facing for a while. So for those of you who don't know, Jordan has a population of 10 million people. 800,000 is the number of Jordanians working and living abroad, mainly in GCC countries, in Gulf states. Because of COVID-19, the government is expecting 15% of Jordanians to lose their jobs and return to Jordan. Mind you, Jordan has already a 19% unemployment rate prior to all this happening. So we expect businesses to close in the private sector here in Jordan, but we also expect an influx of Jordanians returning to look for jobs in the country. This is definitely a threat because people will be suffering. Competition will increase for the limited amount of jobs out there in the market. For us as management consultants, because we're in an unregulated market, this means that more people, when they don't find jobs, they can print business cards that say they're advisors, they're consultants, and start trying to offer their services. And again, this is an unregulated market, which means that we can look at this as a threat and think that there will be more people competing for the same marginal business that we're getting from clients here. But the way I look at it is that this is going to be an opportunity. So we need new expertise. We need new industry understanding and specialization. And these people coming from back to Jordan means that we have experts in different topics, in different industries, that we need to build on their skills and their expertise and find ways to collaborate with them and expand our offering as management consultants. When I look at the services, next slide please, Rima. When I look at the services and the topics that are becoming more interesting for clients, I would say that definitely business continuity and resilience, that's a very big topic for clients here. Digital transformation, I believe that COVID-19, we've been talking about digital transformation for many years now, but COVID-19 has forced government and private sector in this part of the world, as well as globally, of course, to transform digitally by force, because there was no other way. So that continues to be a very big topic. So understanding what digital transformation is about, being able to advise clients on the right digital strategies for them is extremely important. Business model innovation and transformation is extremely important, helping clients with their strategic shifts, their restructuring, redefining what they're offering as customer services and products, new go-to-market strategies. So for us in Jordan, a lot of industries depend on exporting to other markets. And those markets are no longer available. Access to those markets is no longer available. So we need to be devising new ways of exploring new markets, accessing those markets. So that's one thing we need to be helping our clients on. Social impact. Again, clients have become more aware of the need to be socially relevant in their communities, supporting their communities, supporting their people. So devising strategies behind that is extremely important. Talent management, like Michael said, HR managers or the HR function is not as big as it used to be before, or it's taken a backseat these days, but it's become really important to manage new issues for our employees, working from home, social distancing, compensation of people. We've had changes in defense orders in Jordan that have been regulating the employment and employer-employee relationships in Jordan. Several of those have been issued in the past 2 months. So being able to understand how to compensate my people and complying with regulations at the same time is extremely important and critical. Another important factor is supply chain management. Again, our supply chains have been disrupted. A lot of raw materials that we are used to importing from China or certain markets in Europe or the US are not available for the foreseeable future. So again, we need to help clients find new ways to be able to access supply chains, rebuild their supply chains in order for their businesses to continue. Of course, regulations, compliance continues to be an important component. And like I said, in Jordan, as in many countries, government has been issuing a lot of decrees and regulations, and we need to be up to date. We need to help our clients learn how to implement those and comply with those. So the bottom line for me is that There are a lot of things that we need to be doing during these challenging times, but the most important thing is that we need to be listening to our customers, being better at understanding their needs and their requirements, learning new things ourselves, but also educating our clients on how to adapt, on how to handle certain things, educating them on new topics, and collaborating with our clients, with our stakeholders, but more importantly, with our colleagues in the market who can help us build new partnerships, provide new specializations, and offer new expertise. Thank you everyone for listening, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Tamara. I love the fact that you're talking about listening, learning, educating, and the collaboration, and how you actually thought of all of those coming back with unemployment as an opportunity instead of a threat. Yes, part of what management consultants should do is actually educate others for them to become better consultants than just complaining that they're not management consultants and just printing the card saying so. So thank you very much for that insight. Thank you all three speakers for being with us. It was great listening to all of you. I'm not a management consultant yet. I was able to more understand what could be the next steps for everyone. Even though most are saying there isn't much business now, but actually there's lots of opportunities, and there are lots of ideas that could be implemented in order to make sure that the time spent is actually well spent. So thank you all. I want to go and look at the chat box. We only have like 6 minutes left, but I see lots of comments there, so I'm going to go through them one by one. And well, thank you. And yes, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to many. I can see many thank yous in there. Thank you for Michael. Thank you for the comprehensive coverage. I feel that most of it is actually comments. Rogero has a question. Hi, Rogero, it's been a while, my dear. He's thanking Michael, but noting the following. One thing I find difficult is to promote the activity, whereas delivery is, thanks to video conferencing technology, relatively easy. Any insight on that? So Michael, if you put on your mic, please, and your video, and maybe address that question to Rogero.
Yes, that's a very good question. And I've had to question myself how I've marketed myself. The reason I say that, because I have a management consultancy of a long time, and I'm changing my website because of that right now. And mainly because I found that people have been going on to online courses and think that they do a course, of course, not the ISO 20700 train the trainer course, but they've been going on and doing a course, and they become an expert, as Tamara said. It's like, you did one course and now you're an expert. And so I've gone on, I've been a bit more active on promoting, here is the name of the actual text, or you may find value in looking at this. So my marketing has been, one, I'm updating my website. Secondly, I'm collaborating with other consultancies, and I notice there's some Australians on here. I'm working with other industry associations because as Tamara said, I'm an expert, and being an expert, as Yutaka said, we need to provide the competency of what others say they do, but they're not actually qualified to do. So I've had to kind of change the way that I've been marketing myself. As much as some people who know me think that I'm not shy, but I'm actually shy, but I have to go out, and I've been doing more webinars, more presentations, and engaging with universities. I give lectures at the various universities in Australia at the Masters of Business Administration. And they've been very low fee, but it's been putting myself out into the market. And as Tamara says, and also Yutaka, is because you have to give a lecture or you have to do a new proposal, sometimes as consultants, we can actually research better than some others because we've got a few resources. And it's really interesting. I don't know if other people have found it, that we've done SWOT analysis or PESTEL analysis or Porter's whatever's, you know. And you'd be surprised how many people that have got an MBA, for example, I said, I did this in my studies. Do we still use that stuff? And I've been interesting how, and get people's views about some things, as Yutaka said, were old, are actually now new, because they're re-embracing with things that I thought that was old hat. But in actual fact, they're quite good tools, and they've been proven tools. So I'm not answering the question, but I've had to change the way that I've been doing marketing, Rima, and it's a good question. I'm still working on it.
It is time to evolve. That's how I see it. So thank you, Michael. Many notes here thanking Joe for his presentation about and the original perspective. I love the words that I'm saying. Everyone's thanking all of you for the actions and the clear actions, especially Joe with his graph. There's a question here from Pikelim to Mike, actually. And here it goes. Mike, with the new normal after COVID-19, do you see more emphasis of management by objectives? Also, the organization will be more flattened with direct interface between the CEO and first-line employees who execute the projects. Any possibility of elimination of middle management?
First of all, the management by objectives was something back in the early 80s. And then what happened with Kaplan and Norton with their balanced scorecard and the 4 perspectives that came out. So we had to have the 4 perspectives, customers, financial, employees. And the 4th one was the process perspective. And what Kaplan and Norton found, this getting back to objectives, is that people understood customer loyalty, you know, staffing, learning and all those types of things, and the finances. But the one that Kaplan and Norton found difficulty in people implementing was actually the process perspective. And our work in the Middle East, as Tamara comes from, I've worked in the Middle East, but also in England and Europe. A lot of executives in the so-called Western nations don't necessarily understand their business processes and what they do. Yet my time in Japan, in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam, a lot of executives actually are quite comfortable going from the very top to the so-called operational front end very easily. Whereas in a Western culture, we tend to think we make our way up and then that's okay. And then eventually they don't even go to so-called in lean terms for those doing lean. Oh, go to Gemba, go to where the work happens. Why do you have to tell people to do that? I don't understand it. And so as it were about the flattening, and I noticed that Joe had Mintzberg, and I studied Mintzberg too, about flattening the organization. I think there's going to be, as Tamara said, it's going to be a change, and I think we will see a flattening for the managers to re-engage with their staff, but also not so much to set objectives. I think when we said SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and timely, I think we're going to have an A that is agreed. Because it's one thing for a boss to set the objectives and people at the floor or the machine or the office or the airport are going, you want me to achieve what? When? With these resources? With these people at this facility? I think there's going to be a more engaging management style. And for some managers, that's going to be a change for them. If I may, while I've got you there, if you do that with your hands, that's your hands. And you take them apart and you just move one digit down, that's different. It feels different. And I think you try to do it again and you get all confused. The same with folding your arms. I think there's going to be a change. I think there's going to be a flattening of organizations, but the setting of objectives, setting goals to achieve, I think it's going to be a more engaging process than it was before.
Thank you, Mike. Then we go to the many thank yous to Tamara. Everyone believes it's a very good presentation, Tamara, so thank you. Many of those actually will be used in quotes for our summary of all the webinars that we've done so far, and you're going to see that in our newsletter next week. There's a question here, and I believe it has to do with the subject that Tamara put on the table. So Tamara, maybe you would be answering this one. The question is, digital transformation is key for our clients, but also key for us as management consultants. Can anyone share the experience on how management consultants can transform their service offerings to digital?
I believe my colleague at the Global Institute, Otto, has been doing some events around that, talking about digital transformation for management consultants. One thing that I'm seeing, of course, is just the way we're delivering our services. So for instance, I started a new consulting project this week, and so I kicked off the project, did a kickoff presentation and everything, and we've been working on Zoom very efficiently. So utilizing tools that are out there is extremely important for us as consultants, but also looking at different ways of delivering our services, not just through Zoom, but maybe the whole structuring of the service, breaking it down into smaller components that are easier to deliver to clients. I'm unable to travel to my clients in the region, for instance, but I still need to continue supporting them. So we need to come up with new ways to be able to do that. Platforms to support freelance consultants are coming up here and there. So, and these again indicate a different delivery method. So things are changing. It's been slower for the management consultants than in other industries, but I think it's coming and we need to be ready.
We're 2 minutes past, but we have one last question. And Tamara, since you're on, please, you also address that. I feel it's related to the previous one, actually. It's from Dr. Tariq. He's asking or stating also, digitization consultation is a must-to-go step, but what business model would be suggested for a digital consultation organization to be distinguished if we want to look from the perspective of Blue Ocean?
I'm not sure I understood the question properly.
Dr. Tariq, would you like to unmute and maybe ask that question? Dr. Tariq, I unmuted you.
Hi everybody.
Please. Yeah.
Thank you for this really insightful presentation of all. What I am seeking, Tamara, is that we need to think differently. A Blue Ocean strategy is thinking out of the box and thinking out of the competitors. So in the digitalized market, how can consultation create a business model that would really lead the market rather than to be led by other models of consultations? So my question is actually, we should have a clear and a very clear business model in a digital consultation. This is my concern. How can we reach such a model if we want really to lead the market in consultation?
Definitely. We need, just like the Blue Ocean says, we need to focus finding new clients, for instance, building on existing capabilities to be able to deliver new types of services. So just like any other business, the Blue Ocean definitely applies to us as consultants.
And maybe just like Mike said, it is actually about seeing the opportunity and taking it immediately instead of waiting for things to happen, or maybe that's how you would lead as consultants. I hope that answers your question, Tariq.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone. I mean, we keep getting the thanks and we keep getting the good impressions from those who attended. We'll keep doing this week in, week out. Next week, please do join us. It's about, I believe it's about marketing intelligence, if I'm not mistaken. And we hope that with all of those sessions that we're having, that you actually get to know better who our network is. We're putting people together. Like I've been telling everyone, we're actually seeing more of each other than before the COVID, because we don't travel now, but we actually just open cameras and mics and are able to talk to each other and communicate. So thank you everyone for being with us. Again, we'll be using many of what you included in the chat as quotes. Please be with us next week, and Right, today, actually, in 3 hours, we will be celebrating our International Consultants Day, actually less than 3 hours. So please do join us there as well. It is your day. I want to say Happy International Consultants Day to everyone. Celebrate yourselves, celebrate your achievements, be there for each other. This is a beautiful place for us to connect and interconnect. Michael is already having a cheers, okay? We will do the cheering as well during our celebration. Stay connected. The presentation and the paper from Mike will be sent to you tomorrow. You will have the contacts in the presentation of all speakers. Please stay in touch with them, stay in touch with us, and we'll always be there for you. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Bye-bye.